We've got one colour of paint today. This is Tundra Violet. It's a Schmincke colour, but you could use any colour of paint that you wanted to. A good one might be Payne's Grey as well. I'm going to pop a little bit of water in a couple of wells. I'm just going to give a little bit of a mix. It's important we get a variation in tone. So that's half a teaspoon of water and a pea-sized blob of paint. I've got a fairly medium mix. I'm going to make a lighter mix with a little bit less paint, about half a teaspoon of water, and then I'm going to have my strong mix, which is nice and strong. Okay, we're going to pop on with some water. And I'm going to use a tiny bit of gum arabic. So this is a medium, which slows the flow of paint. It also slows the drying time down. It's very good for doing misty trees, and it's very good for water reflections. It's also good for lifting out. So I'm just spreading that around on that wet area of the sky. I've got round number 10, and I'm going to come in with that darker mix that we've made and just start to create the mistiness. So circular motion, pushing your brush down, that's going to control the flow of paint. You can see that this colour is quite grey. I'm going to dip into the neat colour as well and bring some of that in at the top. So again, that really sort of dark, moody feeling. Again, still a circular motion. I'm making sure that line's random. Give that brush a bit of a rinse off. Then we're going to start this mistiness now on the trees. I'm going to take that mix, I've swapped down to round number 6, and that lighter mix, I'm going to start to come in and create some rough tree shapes. So this is still very wet at the bottom, and that gum arabic will just stop that flow of the paint. Because it's a more diluted mix, it would flow a lot more without the gum arabic. You can still do it without the gum arabic, it will still work if you wanted to try without that. And I just want you to do an uneven line. So when doing these trees, we want them to be uneven. It's all about creating that really nice mistiness. I'm going to leave a little gap between this bigger tree, which I've drawn the trunk for, but not much of the foliage really. It's got this distant feel. You can do all different shapes of trees. This is just a made up scene really, to show you how you can create this mistiness. Nice and simple for you to learn. Okay, so I'm going to dry that off. It's dry now, and I'm going to start to come into this next section. I've got a really nice feeling of mistiness in the distance, and we're just going to keep this up now. So this is a little bit of water going on to this hill section, and I'm going to come in with the lightest mix. So I've got those 3 mixes and this is the lightest one. Leave little gaps of the white. That was with my round number 10. I'm going to come into the very darkest thick mix. Just add odd dabs just down on this bottom edge. So these sort of tonal differences are indicative of mist. So it's quite good to get this very strong difference in. Remember, the further away it is, the more misty it will be. You'll see less. So that's going to help give a feeling of mist. Then I'm going to take some of that lighter mix again. That's onto my round number 6, and I'm going to pop another couple of trees in. So these trees are going on to dry, but I'm just going to give them a little bit of a spritz. There's different ways to sort of capture that misty look, and I'm going to show you each of those in this picture. So we're just having, I'll put three trees in here in that light mix, and then with my spritzer just gonna soften them in a little bit. You can see them just blend that little bit. And I'm going to do the same up here. So this is that lighter mix. Keep to either side of the tree because I'm going to make this tree nice and dark, and it's going to give a nice sense of light. Just little tricks that help with composition. And it's just this sort of gradual layering. I'm going to spritz again. You can see that just blend. So it's still got that really nice misty effect. So I'm going to dry that one off really nicely now. So I've got this extra mistiness and depth as it's coming forward. So with my round number 10 now, I'm going to go into that medium mix. I've loaded my brush up, so it's nicely loaded. I'm going to hold it like this so that it's flat, and I'm going to catch the surface of the paper. So I'm scraping and catching the surface of the paper. This is creating this really nice tree shape. Now this is called dry brushing, but actually brush is not actually that dry, and it's just catching the surface to give that lovely texture. And then I'm going to take my round number 6 and just run down that tree trunk. I'm going to pop a little branch in here. So whilst this is all wet, it's very nice to manipulate it at this stage. I'm going to dab a little bit into the dark. Just bring that down one side of that trunk and just onto that branch. This is with the round number 6. I'm just going to dab a few bits into the wet paint. So it's giving it a more tonal effect. We've only got this one colour that we're using, so we want to keep it nicely contrasted. And this is going to be our focal point really. So this now is a rigger. We can use a line mount. It's a long thin brush That just gives you really nice fine branches. So I can just pop a few through any little gaps really. So I haven't got floating foliage. See that I've made the tree slightly angled so that it's not too precise. I want it to be non-uniform. In fact, I might even take a couple more fine branches just through. I quite like an odd branch coming out. Once you start painting trees and looking at trees more and more, you see all these little wispy bits that come out at the top. I think they really add something. That tree's nicely in place. Okay, I'm going to come into this front section. I'm going to pop the water on. We're going to come in with the lightest colour to start with again. It doesn't matter if that bottom of the trunk isn't quite dry because the mistiness will fade that in anyway. And if you can, just leave an odd bit of dry on this section. I'll give a nice highlight as well. You'll notice that I'm following the line of the land. This is all sort of semi-abstract at the same time. Quite moody and misty. I'm going to dip into the medium colour now. I'm going to keep that to that top edge. Just patches. Just stroke it down the line of the land and just let that settle. I'm going to swap down to my number 6 again. Come into that real dark colour now. I'm being quite brave here. I'm going to pop some in either side. Pop a bit in down here. The paint's still nice and wet on the paper, so it's going to spread nicely. To come along this edge. That odd patch of dark again. That's got a nice moody feel now. So I'm going to dry that off. Okay, so we've got now a lovely dark moody feel. It's nice and dry. We've got this mistiness of the trees in the background. So I've showed you how to create the mistiness using the Wet in Wet and the Gum Arabic. Now I'm going to show you how to create mistiness by lifting out. So I have got here a damp cotton bud and I can start to come on and just gently agitate the surface, dab off with a little bit of kitchen towel, and you start to get that misty look. So I'm going to take a little bit across the tree. With the gum arabic on the surface, you've got to be a little bit more careful that you don't lift out too much. So be a bit more gentle if you pop the gum arabic on, because it does tend to lift quite easily. Keep swapping cotton buds as well if they get quite dirty. Coming over a darker area always indicates more mistiness. You can break through your line a little bit at the top. So that sort of darkness broken through with mist. If you try to keep the level similar, because mist tends to hang in quite a similar place, that's quite helpful. You can come over these ones in the distance as well and take a little bit out to add a little bit more mist. Wherever it's darkest is the easiest place really to lift it out to make it look misty, and I keep the strokes quite horizontal. This is great on the tops of mountains as well. I'll have to do a video on that one at one point. You can take a little bit through the sky. What you find is this all at the front tends to look quite misty anyway. I'll follow a line here, just take a little bit out there. It's a really nice effect. Nice and easy as well. Just dabbing it with a little bit of kitchen towel. That's got a really nice misty effect. Then what's quite nice to really give it a little bit more oomph on the mistiness is to come in with something in the foreground. So I'm going to go nice and thick. I'm just going to dab in I'm going for some teasels and a few brambly bits. So this is with a dark colour. Could go for a nice wall. Just bringing some of that through. So I've got my line writer. So I can just do the flicky bits on the teasels. They're quite, although they're in the foreground, they're quite little teasels, so you won't see a huge amount of detail. You won't see all the spiky bits on them, but I am just giving them a rough edge. Come nice and dark at this bottom section. I need a tiny bit more paint. Really does show you what you can achieve with just one tube of paint and learning how to dilute those colours into different mixes. So I just want this to be nice and dark. I'm just building up with flicks this sort of brambly section. That was with my round number 6. I'm going to pop back down to my rigger. You can always turn upside down to do this as well. The painting upside down, it does make it easier to paint downwards. There's only a little bit here to do though. I rest on my little finger when I'm doing this. Bring some grasses nice and high. You get that beautiful contrast of the light behind. It just works so nicely. You can see that that's made it look lots more mistier in that background now. Okay, I'm going to dry that off. Okay, so that's nicely dry now and I'm really liking the effect. I have got a gold gel pen, so if you just want to add a little bit extra, gel pens are fabulous for doing that. They go over everything and I can just come in. So you could use gold, you could use silver, you could use white. Metallics always work really well when you're using one colour. And I'm just creating an extra level here of a bit of sparkle. Just pop in a few more brambly bits really and grasses. It just gives it a little bit of extra dimension at that front section. So here we are, it's nicely finished. I've taken the tape off so you can see it nicely. So really you've learnt quite a lot today. You've got learning that one colour can make a misty scene. You have got 3 mixers, one quite diluted, in fact I'll bring that back here, one medium, one diluted and one very strong. And you can work through a picture to create that misty effect. You can have a go with gum arabic if you've got it. You can try without if you haven't. You've learned really about the cotton bud effect as well and lifting out with cotton buds.